Hey guys, happy Wednesday. My name is Shay, this is FTMSweethearts, and it's Wednesday. Yay. Alright, so last week, if you guys remember, I was talking about my mom coming to visit, and I was flipping the fuck out. She actually just left this morning, and that might have been one of the longest weekends of my life. It was pretty awful. Oddly enough, I was extremely nervous about my voice, because I hadn't seen her since December of last year, and I was on tea for 6 months. I mean, I've been off tea for 6 months, but my voice sounds like this, and I used to be a soprano 1 or 2. So I was really expecting her to flip the fuck out about it, because a while back, I was drawing or painting or something, and my Skype app was open on my phone, and she called me, and I answered just because I heard it beeping, and I wasn't paying attention, so I answered, and she thought I was my brother, which is awesome. However, then she realized that it's me, not my brother, and so she started crying over the phone, and it sucked, and so I was terrified about when she came here. So, I picked her up at the airport, and I brought her to the house, and we went out and got some food, and we were sitting there, and she said, "So tell me about your voice." And I took a big breath, and I said, "Well, I had a couple shots of testosterone," because she's familiar with the idea, at least from Gavin's. And she said, "Why?" I said, "Well, pretty much I wanted to know what it would do." And that's essentially it. I was going after some changes, and once I got them, I stopped it. That was what I wanted. And so she asked if my voice would, go back to normal, and would I be able to sing again, and I don't know, it might be like another year or two if I figure out what I'm supposed to be sounding like. So I miss my singing voice, but I really like sounding like this, so I think the trade-off, at least right now, the trade-off is good for me. If I were to go back and have the option again, I'd do it again. I loved the way I felt, I was happy and I was energetic, and it was a good time in my life. But other than that, the visit was fucking awful. My mom made a whole lot of really shitty comments, and I have pretty tough skin, and I had to leave the room multiple times or else I would start crying, so it was kind of rough. But she's gone. However, she went to my sister's place, and my sister lives out in New Jersey, and my sister came out of the closet recently, and she and her girlfriend have been together for over a year, but she finally officially decided to tell my mother for some reason. I don't know why. That was one of the shitty comments my mom made, because I asked her if she was nervous about going to visit my sister, and she said yes, and started to cry, and, so I asked her, "What are you the most nervous about?" And she said that she would scream at her, or throw things at her, or hit her. And then she said, "But I'm not that kind of person, so I wouldn't do it." I was just, ugh. Alright. So, I'm very, very nervous about her visiting my little sister, but hopefully it'll be okay. Hopefully. She's a bit, I don't know. I just pray. Alright, so this week, we're talking about the support we get from our partners. I'm really glad we're discussing this, because my personal theory is that a lot of times, when somebody first comes out as trans, it's so exciting, and you just figured all this shit out, and your life is good, and everything's working all of a sudden, everything is in place, and you finally get it. And so everybody around you gets, so interested and so focused on your transition that you kind of forget about everything else. And I think to some degree that's okay, because, the coolest thing ever is going on in your life. But at the same time, I still have my own shit going on, My mom was here to visit, and it sucked. So can we talk about your tea later? I need to cry about this right now. And I know that can come off as selfish, but at the same time, as a partner, when our communication with our sweethearts is about 90% testosterone related or trans related, I need a little bit more than that, I'm very low maintenance, and I'm not a huge talker, but I still need a little bit more than that. And I actually remember the very first time I realized how much we talked about transitioning, is we were visiting some friends in a different town, and we were, just chit-chatting and hanging out, and I realized that, every other minute, we were talking about something trans-related, trans this and trans that, and hormones and documentaries, and, shot types and surgeons, and we just kept talking about trans stuff, and after a while, I could see the other couple kind of like exchanging glances, and I finally realized that we do talk about it a lot. I mean, for us, it feels normal. It's just a part of everyday life, but apparently we talk about it a lot. So, now that I've rambled for 5 minutes, so this week we're talking about the support that we get from our partners. I'm very, very lucky to have Gavin because he's wonderful. He really is. He's a really good listener. I don't talk very often about important things, but when I do, he just listens. That was something that we had to work into, actually, you know, because in previous relationships, there was different communication styles, and so getting together, we had to learn each other's. And it took a little bit of time. One of the things we realized was, like, you know, I'd tell him something I was stressed or worried about, and he would tell me how I should respond. And while I do understand that that would be the correct response, I'm just not there yet, and I need to bitch about it for a little bit longer, and so I'd get really frustrated when he'd tell me how to fix it, because I didn't want it fixed yet. I just wanted to be mad. But we figured it out eventually, and it was, you know, it's pretty good now. Another thing I appreciate about him is that he never tells me white lies. He never tells me, yeah, he doesn't lie to me. You know, if it's not good, he'll tell me. Which I especially appreciate when it comes to artwork, because if it looks like shit, I don't want to take it out of the house. You know, and if I ask him if this outfit looks cute, and it doesn't, he will tactfully hand me a different shirt or something. I really appreciate that about him, because in other relationships, people would just tell me things to make me happy. So I didn't realize how valuable that was until Gavin. Another thing I really appreciate about him is that he's so reassuring. I've mentioned before, you know, I'm pretty dykey, and so when we go out places and he's on my arm, people assume that we're a lesbian couple, and we're not. And I get so frustrated, and I feel so bad about it, because I feel like it's my fault that he just got mammed, because I look like a dyke, and therefore I would be dating a female, and so I get so upset about it, and he's always really reassuring that he's not mad, and he's okay, and, you know, he likes me this way. This is apparently an emotional subject. Alright, another thing I appreciate about him is that he lets me talk about anything, even if it's painful, even if it's hard to hear. He still encourages me to talk about it, and I appreciate that so much, because he's my best friend. And if I couldn't tell him, who the fuck am I supposed to tell? Okay, I don't know if I'm gonna post this one or not. Crying's a little embarrassing. Thanks, Mom. But yeah, he's very encouraging, you know, when things are difficult between us, and, you know, the reasons are painful, we'll still talk about it so that we can fix it. And I appreciate that so much about him, because, you know, typically it'd be easier to bite my tongue and just not say anything and just be quietly frustrated, but he doesn't want me to do that. He wants me to be able to talk to him about anything. And I'm a really, really slow processor of emotion. I'm still fucking working through stuff that happened in, like, 2007, you know? So, and this is another thing that we've learned in our relationship together, is that, you know, when I'm upset, he really wants to find out why, but when I'm upset, I don't like to talk about it. And he used to, you know, start asking questions, and I'd end up pissy about it, even if it wasn't anything to do with him to beginning, but I just get cranky and annoyed, and then we would end up in a fight, and nobody actually did anything wrong. So he's learned to give me space to sort out what I'm feeling or thinking about, and I've learned to speed up the process a lot, so that it doesn't freak him out in the meantime, you know, because, like, yeah, he used to get really worried that I was mad at him about something, and there's only so many times I could say, I promise it's not you, before I'd start getting pissy. So, after, I forget how many times, it was either like 2 or 3 times, but that's our rule, you know. After you ask 2 or 3 times, drop it until the other person's ready to talk. And it's so much better for our communication. I don't know, I guess that's the gist of it. You know, he's encouraging, and he's warm, and he's loving, and he wants me to talk about anything, and he listens when I blather on and on and on about art history. I'm like, hey, isn't it so cool? This happened 1,300 years ago. Isn't it awesome? He's like, that's wonderful, honey. It's great. I don't know, I love him, and he's really good to me. So, you guys have a good week, and we'll see you next week. Okay, bye.